started, has anyone just kind of tell me about a time that maybe you've been judged or you've been labeled by society, and just kind of tell me about that situation and how that worked out.
What sticks out in my mind is maybe being judged for my age. For instance, like going to banks and applying for jobs, especially a couple years ago when I was still in college. I think that ageism was definitely at play. People use that to judge other people.
Okay, Burdetta, do you have anything to add?
Yes. I think I think the age that I am, as far as entering the teaching field, at my age, has also caused some, feedback.
I think, you know what, to kind of give you another side of the same coin, I think me being so young, I'm only 24 years old, so me entering the teaching field so young, a lot of principals aren't quite taking me seriously. Just yet they don't think, maybe he has it, maybe he doesn't, so I guess being younger is also an issue as well. Just a little background about me. I was actually judged and labeled by society. Well, first, being young, I had asthma really bad, and the breathing medication that I had to take actually caused me to gain a lot of weight. So I was definitely teased and judged because of that. And then later on in high school, I was actually labeled by, well, I guess it was true, so it wasn't really a label, but I used to skip school. I went through like a little bad phase, so I was actually truant. So I guess in light of the scarlet letter, I would have a T. I would wear a T for that. So let's see here. So just to kind of give you guys a background, I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with the scarlet letter. But basically 1600s, the Puritan society, so given that justice system in that society and the situation that is occurring in that, which is the main character, Hester Prynne, is accused of adultery, and she's actually pregnant as a result. And what makes matters worse, she's thrown into jail for that particular, offense, if you will. And then what makes it that much more, sinister, if you will, is that she won't name, the father of her child. So that's basically what's going on. So if you guys were in that position, what would you do, or how would you react?
I think the way that we would react were we characters in those days and in that society would be different, very different from what would be the case were something at least akin to that to occur in the modern day in this society. Unfortunately, in this society, when something like that happens, just the recognition that somebody has done something wrong is cause for the speaker of what, or one who discusses what's wrong, to be labeled as evil and judgmental and so on and so forth. We're all sinners, so to react the way that the novel portrays that town to react, itself is pretty mean, pretty evil. But but here in the modern day, we have the swing of the pendulum in the opposite direction, where if there is something evil, merely the recognition of that behavior is deemed itself to be unacceptable. And to me, that phenomenon itself is unacceptable. But so I think that the way that we interpret things like that, not the truth of it, because that's immutable, but the way that we interpret things like that is very different between the society depicted in the novel versus now here.
So I guess if you could tell her anything, or if you were to give her any advice, like what would you say to her, to the character, Leanna? What would you give Hester? Can you guys hear me?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember. It's been so many years since I've read the story. I'm trying to remember. I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. I was just saying that I'm trying to remember her reasoning for protecting the father of her child. I can't remember why she's doing that, but
because he was a pastor in that community.
Okay, he was a pastor. Yeah, I guess I can understand what she's doing, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that I would do the same thing. But she, I would like to think that I would say that she should stand up for herself and not, sacrifice so much. But I guess ultimately she just has to do what her conscience tells her to do. That's what she's doing.
I remember personally, I actually kind of wanted to do this lesson to kind of get the students to connect with it emotionally, because I remember being in high school that I'm like, well, she cheated on her husband. I couldn't really relate it to that society, because she cheated on her husband. I mean, yes, she did something wrong, but that's her business. Why are they so concerned, and why did they throw her in jail because of that? It's not a real crime, so whose business is it? That's between her husband, her marriage, So I didn't really understand what was going on with that. Like, can you guys, I guess, does that make sense? Am I making sense in saying that?
That makes sense. I agree with you. I used to think the same thing.
Yeah, that particular society at that time, or segment of society, made it more of its own business than it ought to have when somebody had some sort of sin. The advice I would give is recognize the sin, but tell people that this is between herself and her God. And to celebrate the fact that there's a child to come, regardless of how it occurred. But beyond that, to butt out, I guess would be my advice.
Well, I think that the story actually depicts a lot of what goes on even today. I mean, the religious part of that setting and how strict they were about issues like that is kind of different than now. But these days, I mean, people in general are the judge and jury. The people's fears, like say, if a teenager or a young person gets pregnant and they're not married, or under the same circumstances, it's looked upon, even though it's becoming the norm these days, but it still has a stigma on what people think and what people say even about that person. It may not be as vocal as those people were back then, but the thoughts and the judgments and things like that are still there today.
Yeah, this novel, it occurs to me, is very important to expose kids to, especially teens, because it's a good starting point for comparing the two different ages, and then for having conversation around